And welcome back to our next edition of the CBB Review Studio podcast. I am Dan Siegel, joined today by my co-host Matt Mlodzinski, as well as Nick Elliott, our Alabama contributor at CBB Review. And we got Joe Jackson, old friend of the show. He'll be representing Purdue for us today because we will be doing our Game Picks episode. Game of the weekend, Alabama at Purdue tomorrow, Friday night at 7 o'clock Eastern. We'll be picking that. We will be picking 9 other games. Be sure to subscribe to our show for more content like that. But guys, let's just dive right into it. So our game of the weekend, number 2 Alabama, as they are ranked right now, against number 13 Purdue at Purdue. These are 2 Final Four teams from last year. They played last season in Toronto, actually last year. Purdue won that one 92-86. That was a really good game. Edey and Sears both with 35 points. I'll throw it to Joe first. Joe's our Purdue representative for today. What are your initial thoughts before we dive into predictions?
Yeah, I mean, it should be a very fun game. I think I expect it to be very high scoring. I expect the tempo to be pushed. And you have, in my opinion, 2 of, top 3 to 5 best point guards in the country in this game, in Sears and Braden Smith. So I don't know if they necessarily guard each other, but that matchup just in general is fun. Alabama's length combined going against Purdue's kind of 3-guard system. That'll be fun to monitor. And I mean, yeah, without giving the real prediction, I'm just very, very excited for this game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama, I'll send it to you, Nick. Like, they look a little bit different, in my opinion, at least as I've seen, than previous years. I mean, they're not a team that's hucked up a bunch of threes and been successful yet. Obviously, we're like 2-3 games into the year, but they have a lot more length down low. Cliff Amori, a huge difference maker on the defensive end, protecting the rim. What are your thoughts in that aspect?
Yeah, I think this will be the game where Clifford Amori probably gets more minutes than he's normally gotten in these kind of games. He's been kind of in foul trouble. He only played 18 minutes, but I think the key for this game, especially slowing down Purdue's, I think they got Will Berg, their new starting center, slowing down. I think he might need to play like 25 minutes plus if he can stay out of foul trouble. That's always the big issue for him, especially when he was at Rutgers. But talking about their 3-point, they've taken a lot of open threes, just not falling right now. They're shooting like 30% as a team. In that game last year in Toronto, like you said, they made 19 threes. So I think if they want to go into West Lafayette to get the win, I think they need to make at least like 14 or 15 threes to get the win.
Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you guys bring up some good points. And obviously Purdue and Alabama, right? Last season, it was almost like one of the top games of the non-conference slate. I don't feel the same way necessarily this year. I feel like this is a litmus test for Purdue to really see where the Boilermakers are post Zach Edey, right? I think we know that Alabama has Final Four aspirations. This is a Crimson Tide team that it seems like it's make or break, right? Like they have what it takes to make the Final Four. And if they don't make it, it might be a failure. You could probably go that far. Nate Oates has everything at his disposal. I think that was Purdue's case last year. This year, I think it's going to be more about, okay, how quickly can you get past not having Zach Edey anymore? And I think if Purdue comes away with a win, there's a whole season left to play, but it at least shows that without Zach Edey, this is a team still in a good place 1 year later. Otherwise, it might be more of a process because Purdue's always had some great big men, but we know just how important Zach Edey was. I mean, he was better than most of the past great Purdue big men. You could even go back to Robbie Hummel. And I think that just seeing where Purdue's going to be at past him is going to be the real challenge, and I'm looking at that in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. Like, we talk about how Purdue is a lot more guard-oriented this year. And 3-point shooting, especially in small sample sizes, it's really hard to make a lot of it, right? Nick mentioned Alabama is shooting in the low 30s this year, but that's just, that's simple bad variance in 2-3 games. But we've actually seen Purdue with their guard-oriented team become very high volume, high efficiency. And I was a little worried about that with Edey not occupying so much of the defense's attention. Will the guards be able to shoot like 40+%? And so far, so good. So I guess we get into predictions now. What are you thinking? We'll throw it back to Joe. Actually, Joe looks like his his service is lacking a little bit. So I'll throw it to Nick first. Nick, what are you thinking for your prediction in terms of Alabama Purdue?
I think this game, like you said, is going to be a fast tempo game. Tons of shots getting up, high possession game. That's what Nate Oates has won. I mean, especially these past like slow pace games against like McNeese and Arkansas State, they've really only had like 68 possessions. I think if they want to win this game, they'll have to have like 80 possessions, and it'll probably be like a similar score from last year. I think it might be like 92-86. Like again, I could see that with Alabama pulling out the road win.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Purdue making it a close game. I'm going to go with Alabama with the win, but I think that Purdue is going to make this a close game. I don't think that this is going to be a 15-point, 20-point game. I think that Purdue is going to be able to keep it close and, again, going Alabama outright. But I think that there's some people out there that think this might be a blowout. Look, this game is at Purdue, right? Purdue's going to be hyped up for this game. They have a great non-conference schedule, but this is going to be one of those games that you just know it's going to be rocking in West Lafayette. I think Alabama sneaks out with a win, but I think this is going to be another game that comes down to the final possessions.
I'm going to go Alabama as well. One guy I'm looking at in specific, Latrell Wrightsell. I think he's got to get going. Great shooter, only 7 for 22 on the year. That's the big reason for Alabama's relatively slow start from beyond the arc. I think variance kind of plays in their favor now. Maybe they regress a little bit towards the mean. I think they're much improved defensively. That'll be a key in this game, and I'm picking Alabama. So, Joe, welcome back. We had all three of us pick Alabama. Are you in agreement, or are you going with your Boilermakers?
I am going to make it a sweep of Bama. I think it is very close, but I'm worried about Purdue's interior defense. Like, I think Bama can get what they want rebounding and also just on the interior. I'm going to pick Bama. The only reason I'm like very hesitant is this feels like it could just be a Braden Smith masterclass game to me. I think he can get a lot of really, really good looks. They got to fall. Purdue, I know it's small sample size. I'm comfortable saying is the better 3-point shooting team. And then in Mackey, they've had 2 halves this season where they shot like basically 9 for 13 each half from 3. If that happens, that's kind of the way that Purdue wins. It's probably winning this 95-90, but I am going to pick Bama.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great game, regardless of, litmus tests, whatever. But let's move on. We've got 9 other games to pick. We'll go rapid fire with this, and we'll go same order as last episode. So we'll go kind of the clockwise way. So we'll go Matt to Nick to Joe to me. Villanova versus Virginia in Baltimore. This one is a real sickos game, but I felt like picking it just for that reason. What are our thoughts?
I think this is a toss-up game, and I think that Villanova comes away with the win because I think both teams are still searching for identities in different ways. Villanova just needs to find out how they can get something going under Kyle Neptune. Virginia really trying to find out, what's going to change under Ron Sanchez. It already seems, and Dan, we'll get to you later. I know that you'll probably have some takes on that. But Villanova travels really well. This game is right down the road from Philly. I know Virginia can get there pretty easily as well. But I just expect the fan support and Eric Dixon to say, hey, we've lost 2 tough games. We need to come away with a win. I think Villanova sneaks it out.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be very ugly. I mean, it's going to be low scoring like it always is. I mean, Virginia basketball, it's always playing low scoring games. I think I trust Virginia more in this spot than Villanova, especially I watched the game against St. Joe's the other night, and Villanova would just give up way too many open looks for 3, especially just like on the perimeter. Their perimeter defense was not very good. And I mean, Eric Dixon would be the key for this game because he had a very good game last time out.
I'm going to go Villanova. I don't have too much more analysis to add other than I agree with a lot of what you guys said though. For me, it feels backwards, but if Villanova beat St. Joseph's, I would probably lean Virginia, but it just feels like Villanova, it's kind of a make or break spot at this point. And at some point, they just got to bounce back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you focus on one team, whatever team you pick, I think anybody could just be underestimating how bad the other team is. Both of these teams are bad teams. Let's be real. I'm gonna go with Villanova. Of course, my bias is I've watched all 120 minutes of Virginia, or all 80 minutes of Virginia basketball this year. But man, they look bad, out of sync offensively, and they're not even going to be a great defensive team this year. And a Virginia team that's not great defensively is kind of what's that. Here we got another game later on Friday night. We got Florida at Florida State on the ACC network. Matt.
Yeah, another toss-up game here, Dan. You picked some good ones, obviously, this week. And again, Friday is going to be a loaded slate. I do want to put that out. I just feel like with everything going on with Todd Golden, right? I mean, we don't know what's happening there at Florida. It seems like it's going to turn into a mess if it's not a mess already. And Florida State's playing better. Leonard Hamilton understands that his job is going to be called for at his age and how Florida State has played recently, that this better be a good season. And maybe it is going to be his last season, and he goes out with a bang. It's at Florida State. I think that everything going on in the Gators program and how the Noles have at least started the season, Florida State wins this rivalry.
I think I'm going to take Florida going in to Tallahassee to get the win. I trust Florida's guard play of Elijah Martin, Walter Clayton, and Will Richard to get the Gators going offensively.
I'm going to go Florida State at home. I think they're going to be able to force a lot of turnovers. That's what they've done so far this year. And I just think it's going to be very, very close, but home court and just the ability to force turnovers really stands out.
Yeah, I think Florida's a better team. I think Florida State wins this game. I'm also on the same page as Matt. Like, they're going to heckle the crap out of Todd Golden, and he's obviously going to kind of deserve that. But yeah, I'm going Florida State. That's just a good spot for them at home in this rivalry game. Friday night as well, man. This is a loaded slate. Marquette at Maryland, another like sneaky solid game.
I don't know if we'll call this an upset later on in the season, but at least right now, I guess it would be considered one. I'm going to go with Maryland at home in College Park. Marquette just seems like it's going to be the Cam Jones show. They're going to get help from a couple other players, but depth doesn't really seem to be something Shaka Smart has, and he can probably blame himself because they didn't really use the transfer portal at all for that. And yeah, I'm worried about that, and I think Maryland does have depth. And after Derek Queen's breakout performance, Maryland could dominate this game on the glass, inside the paint. I think they win this. Big win for the Big Ten if they get it.
Yeah, the Big East has been struggling so far this year. I'm going to take Maryland as the home team here, get the upset. Kevin Williams in his third year at Maryland. He needs to get going, get back in the tournament again after missing it last season. So I think start out the season strong. They get this win here at home.
I'm also going Maryland. I really just believe in this Terrapin squad. Their defense is going to be super elite this year. The offense is fine, but the thing that stands out is it isn't last year, right? It was really just one guy, Jameer Young, that was able to score. This year, obviously, you have the duo of Derek Queen and Julian Reese on the interior, but you also have Jacoby Gillespie. He can go off for 20-25. Rodney Rice has already done that this year and having a really, really big scoring game. So there's more depth on the perimeter that gives them some shooting, gives them some scoring, and I am going to take them.
I'll go against the grain here. I'll go Marquette. I think they win early with experience and continuity that tends to win games in November. I think they could push the tempo, win in transition. Maryland hasn't really been tested in that respect yet. Like, again, they haven't been tested. Maybe that could mean that they are a great transition defense team. But I think for a slower pace team, I think Marquette kind of pushes the pace a little bit and wins in that way. But Friday night, again, this one in a late night time slot, we got Ohio State and Texas A&M, a ranked versus ranked game.
I feel like the general consensus is both of these teams are going in different directions. Ohio State picks up a big-time win over Texas, moves into the rankings. Texas A&M loses to UCF. Everyone says, what's good with this Aggies team, right? I think what people are missing is that UCF is a little bit better than what people are giving them credit for, right? I think a lot of people were like, all right, what is Johnny Dawkins going to do with this squad, right? You just have a lot of characters, a lot of people that he's going to have to make sure that he keeps the personalities down and the chemistry up. And clearly, it's working out so far. I think that people forget that Wade Taylor is a star. In crunch time, he's great. He can make the big plays. And to me, whenever Texas A&M is going to be in a game like this, I'm going to side with Wade Taylor, and I'm going to go with the Aggies.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to take the Aggies as well. Texas A&M has been prone to starting slow in the season. They usually heat up towards March. That's where they to get in the tournament late. But I think they need this signature win early to start the year because their non-conference schedule is usually suspect, and that's what has led them not to get in the tournament these past couple of years.
I'm gonna go Ohio State, but I'm not super confident in it. This is a team that when you have Bruce Thorne, you have one of the better point guards on the floor generally. Obviously, Wade Taylor's very, very good. But there's just a lot more depth, and the shooting, there are only 2 games. We'll see where it ends up. The shooting seems very, very legit between, Michi Johnson and Bruce Thorne and Junie Mobley, Micah Parrish even. Like, I think it's just going to give them just enough to get the win.
Yeah, real contrast of styles here. Ohio State, obviously the great shooting team, more athletic. Texas A&M, more physical. I think in the way that UCF was able to match Texas A&M physically, Ohio State absolutely will not be able to do that. So it's really, again, the contrast of styles, and I think Texas A&M wins that contrast of styles. And then we move on to Saturday. We got South Carolina at Indiana, 16th ranked Hoosiers. A lot of people are not in love with this Hoosiers team necessarily. What do you think, Matt?
I think, look, Mike Woodson has them ranked 16th in the country. They're a team that is playing fine right out of the gates, and South Carolina dropped a bye game right away to North Florida. And that just scares me knowing that Georgia was able to get past North Florida. I know everyone was on the UNF bandwagon, but once Georgia beat them, I think people are maybe off the bandwagon, and it looks like that much worse of a loss for the Gamecocks. And for that reason, I'm getting it back. I'm drawing it back, Dan. All these circles are getting back to Indiana winning this game.
Yeah, I'm taking Indiana as well. I mean, Mike he's gone into the season on the hot seat, so he needs to get off to a good start on the season, not set back the Hoosiers. They got a lot of guys in the portal, and they're still meshing together, but I think they'll get the job done in Assembly Hall.
I'm also going IU, especially in Assembly Hall, one of the tougher places to play in the country. I don't love what IU's doing specifically in terms of process, but at the same time, they're going to have way more talent than South Carolina, and sometimes talent can just win out.
Yeah. Indiana across the board. I think there's ways to beat Indiana's defense. They're very susceptible to certain pick and roll heavy offenses. They were horrendous against the pick and roll last year. That's not South Carolina, so I'm going Indiana. Then we move on to Colorado State at Ole Miss. Ole Miss now in the top 25 at number 25. What are we thinking here? Nice little Mountain West SEC matchup.
Yeah, I'm rolling with another SEC team here in Ole Miss. I just don't know if Colorado State, I just don't know much about their team. I'll be honest. I do my research and everything, but I just think we need to see more about this team. In the past, they've had guys like David Roddy. They've had Isaiah Stevens. We knew what Colorado State was going to be, what their identity was coming into the season. This year, for me, I think it's more of a wait-and-see approach. And Ole Miss, they had a scare already early on this season. And I think when you're a team like that, when you've got a coach like Chris Beard that knows how to coach a team up, you've got a lot of senior leadership like Dre Davis that can make sure that this gets turned around quickly, this gets fixed quickly. And again, it's not the worst thing in the world when you have a close game that you win. You want to keep that streak going. I think at home, the Rebels take this one.
Yeah, I got Ole Miss in this one. You got guys returning like Jamin Brakefield and Matthew Morrell. They haven't even made the tournament in their years at Ole Miss so far, and they really just want to finish off their Ole Miss careers. I mean, Matthew Morrell's been one of the top Ole Miss basketball legends so far, which is his shot making ability, and he's one of the top scorers. So I think Ole Miss needs to get going here, and they'll get this win here at home.
I also have Ole Miss. I think they're going to be able to dominate the glass. I think they're going to be able to force more turnovers, and sometimes when you can just get simply more possessions than the other team like that, that's going to be a win.
Yeah, clean sweep. Also, of note, Rashad Memba for Colorado State. He was out in the last game. I believe he is questionable for this one. He is such an important player for Colorado State. I had him as the real make or break. He needs to break out for them to continue their success that they've had. And I'm not sure he's even playing. So Ole Miss, I'll add to that. Florida Atlantic against Liberty. This is our mid-major game of the week. This one I think is in the Field of 68 Classic in Charleston, South Carolina. This one exclusively broadcasted on YouTube. So I guess everybody gets that one. So that's cool. What do you think?
I'm going to go with Liberty here. I think that FAU, again, like you're losing a lot of talent that they've had in John L. Davis, in Vlad Golden, like another wait and see approach, right? And I think with Liberty, I like what they've done. It's a program that's been able to consistently find ways to win, get wins like this in the early non-conference. And although they might not be in a top mid-major league, they seem to be able to be super competitive. They've raised the stake at Liberty, right? And I know we have a great relationship with their head coach, so it's tough for me not to side against him as well. So I'm going with Liberty.
Yeah, give me the Flames. I trust. I mean, they're coming off losing Dusty May. Give me just a more balanced team that's been there longer in the program. Give me Richie McKay and Liberty.
I'll go Florida Atlantic here. I think the shooting's going to hold. I really like what they have with their lead guards, Leland Walker, Moretti kind of off the bench at times, and two very good, I think, lead guards at the mid-major level. The shooting's going to, I think, stay hot, and I think it'll carry them to this win.
I'm going to go with Liberty. John Jocke's team, I'm guessing, going to be like very high volume 3-point shooting, but I think Liberty, the way they defend, the way they run you off the 3-point line, like that is a signature way to beat a team like Florida Atlantic in an offense that they will run. So I'm going to go with the Flames. They've done a great job defending so far in that way. 2 more games. We'll start with New Mexico at St. John's, moving on to Sunday afternoon. What do we think?
I think that this is obviously a great game because you got Patino versus Patino.
Oh, yeah.
And New Mexico already came away with a big-time win. But, I mean, this just seems like it is a major game that the older Patino wants to make sure he gets. I think that St. John's wins this battle, and I think that it's going to be another close game. And I think New Mexico is going to be a team that we need to really look out for in the Mountain West. They lost a lot of their top players from last season. They seem to have already found a way with that win over UCLA. But St. John's Patino got the team he wanted, right? That was his big thing last year. He didn't have a team that he wanted. It felt like he wasn't able to put it together in time. Well, he doesn't have any excuses this year, and so far, so good. Johnny's take this one.
Yeah, give me St. John's in the Garden. Should be a good matchup with the two Patino brothers. Give me St. John's. I mean, I just trust – I mean, I know New Mexico's come off the big win against UCLA, but I think, like Matt was saying, that St. John's is still looking for that big win to start the year. So give me St. John's.
I'm going to go St. John's as well. Simple analysis, but I just think they're the better all-around team. I like them better both offensively and defensively. Obviously, this should be a pretty fast-tempoed game, but just give me St. John's.
So, yeah, St. John's across the board. I remember doing the New Mexico preview back in like a few months ago, and I remember noting they were slightly undersized at the wing spot, especially with the better offensive players on their team, True Washington in specific. I think it could be a big game for RJ Luis, a very lengthy guard for St. John's. Someday I watched back at UMass. I really liked him. So I'm going to go with St. John's across the board. Final game of our pick'em is Clemson at Boise State. This one also going on Sunday afternoon. This one on CBS Sports Network.
Solid Sunday slate, too. I always like it when there's a couple great watchable games on Sunday for the college basketball sickos out there who don't care about the NFL. I do think that Clemson wins this game. I'm really high on Clemson. I think they have great depth in the front court and in the back court. I think that even though this is a team that lost some players in P.J. Hall and Joe Girard, Brad Brownell seemed to kind of reload it. And I kind of like Clemson's experience. Ian Shefflin is an animal. He's a tough player to just guard in general. I mean, he just gives it his all. And I like the Tigers to win this one.
Yeah, give me Boise State here, the home team here. Clemson's going to be traveling cross country here. And this game's at a weird time. It gets in the middle of the day for Clemson as well. But Tyson Degenhardt, he's a beast for Boise State, and I think he's probably going to win. I think he can win Mountain West Player of the Year, and he's just a difference maker for them.
Yeah, I'll go Boise State as well at home. Like you said, Degenhardt is really, really good, and I would expect him to kind of lead them to this win. I think it'll be very, very close, but Clemson, their defense has been very good at forcing turnovers. Boise State has been one of the best teams at not turning the ball over. I think Boise State side of that holds, and that's going to help them win.
I'm never, ever, ever betting against November Clemson. November Brad Brownell, always going to come up on top. Wait until the new year and, it's a different story. But also, Boise State did not look great against San Francisco. They lost by like 9 or 10 points, and the eye test didn't really pass there either. So I thought they were the class of the Mountain West. I think Colorado State, New Mexico, those teams are a little closer to them than I thought. So I'm going to go with Clemson on the road to get the win. And that will do it for today's edition of the CBB Review Studio podcast. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if you have not already. Helps us out. We'll be doing pick'ems every week throughout the entire regular season. Once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and take care.